What's up, people, and welcome to another episode of the I Am Conquering Mountains podcast. I'm your host, Charles Phillips, also known as I Am Conquering Mountains. I have a very special guest who I'm excited, so excited to interview today. I came across this individual's Instagram page when she was doing an Instagram live session or discussion with a mutual friend of ours. And when I heard her story and I began to start to look at and line up guests for the podcast, I was like, man, I have to get this individual on the podcast to share her story. It's going to blow you guys' mind. She is an Amazon best-selling author with her book being titled The Fairy Tale Ends. It is available on Amazon now, and I'm telling you, you need to have your pen and paper ready as you read it. Have your ears open and make sure you have some tissue next to you because it is a tear jerker. She is also a childhood trauma survivor. She is also a champion for those who are conquering the mountains of domestic violence and childhood trauma. And her story and what she has conquered and continues to conquer in the work that she does in her field is phenomenal. It's inspiring. It's influential. And it definitely touches my heart. And I'm so appreciative of all the things that she has done and the fact that she is still standing after she has conquered these mountains that she may share today. It is inspiring. She is the very definition of what it means to conquer your mountains. She is evidence of what you go through. You might not be able to control it, but you definitely control the outcome. And I want to give a warm welcome and a big thank you and introduce you all to Miss Tammy Stanley.
That was such a beautiful introduction.
It's
Thank
all
you.
you. It's all you. Make it easy. You make it easy.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your
Mhm.
show. Um, it's very, very hard for me to, participate in shows
Mhm.
and get to network with different people because I literally have limited time, but I want to be
Right.
everywhere at once. I want to do everything.
Don't we all? Don't we
Yeah,
all?
I don't want to miss anything. So thank you. I'm
Mhm.
so happy that I have the time to spend with you this
Mhm.
evening so that we can shed some light on some things
Awesome.
and influence some people. Um,
Awesome.
and this book, whew, it was a journey making it a one,
Yeah.
you know. I cannot say it was easy at all.
Mhm.
I can't because people think becoming an author, you're just writing a book, but
Right.
you're not just writing a book, you're actually reflecting and reliving
Mhm.
everything that you've been through. So that's a tough trial. And I went through so many emotions writing this
Mhm.
book. There was times where, our mutual friend, Miss Janine, I would say,
Mhm.
I keep waking up 3 in the morning with thoughts about what I need to write next. What
Uh-huh.
is happening? And she's like, get up and write it. I'm like, look,
Right.
I'm tired. But yeah,
Mm.
this is my baby. This book is my
Mhm.
baby for sure. I never thought I would be where I am now.
Mhm.
So I look to continue to inspire.
Awesome. Awesome. I was going to ask you what led you to want to even share your story.
So, as you mentioned, as far as like childhood trauma, I noticed I actually sat with myself and I said, I need therapy. Something's wrong. Why am I so angry? And why did
Uh-huh.
that little thing just take me over the top? And
Mhm.
why is like I'm just complaining?
Yeah.
So I said, I think I need therapy. And then
Mm.
I decided to take some therapy sessions. And the woman that I had, she was actually the person to inspire me to write. She
Mhm.
told me, you have so many books within you. And she was like, you need to write. You need to like let it out. But it took me 10 years.
Mm.
I didn't speak about the situation. I never um, shared anything with friends or new friends.
Mhm.
If you knew me, you just knew me. You
Right.
didn't know,
Right.
like, you didn't know my parents' situation. You didn't know like
Mhm.
my entire family situation. So she told me to write, and I said, I'm gonna do an Instagram live. And
Mm.
so I did an Instagram live, and the feedback that I got was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
people I didn't speak to in years. I mean, like 10 plus years were
Yeah.
like seeing me. Oh my God, I never knew that happened. And
Mm.
you're so strong. And how are you pretty? And this happened. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's what inspired me. Therapy. Therapy
Mm.
definitely inspired me to write. For sure.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Is it hard to share your story? Like I know you've probably done some other and like I mentioned, you did the Instagram live with Janine, and you shared some of your story during that time. You've probably done some other like Facebook Live or interviews for podcasts and stuff like that. Is it hard to reflect back and share those things?
You know what? I am an overthinker. So
Mm,
leading up to doing the podcast with you,
mm.
in my mind, I'm like, I gotta think about this again.
Yeah.
Like it gets me nervous. Or
Mhm,
like any show that I have to do, any speaking engagement that I'm doing, it's like,
mhm,
do I feel like talking about this today?
mm,
How is it going to make me feel? How am I going to respond? But every single time I get on a stage or I do a podcast or
mhm.
interview, I feel so good.
Good,
I
good.
feel so good. It's like keep releasing it. Keep releasing
Mhm,
it. The more you release it, the more you become comfortable, the more that fear
mhm,
goes away, And that's all I keep doing. That's why I
mhm.
try to uh-oh, this is a connection loss.
I can still hear you. Or
You can hear
you
me?
still
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
okay. So,
yeah.
um, yeah. So, like, I try to do everything
Mm,
that people. If someone invites me into a podcast or a talk
mhm,
show, something, I try to do everything because I want to release as much as I can.
mhm,
And so, when I talk about it, it does make me feel really, really good, and it feels like a weight
mhm.
is lifted off my shoulder. But in
Yeah.
the very beginning, as I said, it took me 10 years to actually tell this
Mhm,
story. Um, but when I did, I felt so much better. But
mhm,
then I've also went into a dark space, I want to say a year ago, maybe around the pandemic. And I know many people can relate. I went into a dark space and I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to talk
mhm,
about the story anymore. I didn't want to, like, I shut down my Instagram and I just
mhm.
was like, this is too much. We have a pandemic. I am in school. I have kids. I don't know what to do with myself right now. This is
Yeah.
way too much. It was super overwhelming. But
Mhm.
I talked to God and I just
Amen.
like, what you want me to do? Tell
Mhm.
me what to do. And
Yeah.
so I'm back and I feel much better.
Oh. So we got a quick pause. She lost connection, but Tammy Stanley's story is so remarkable and it's so phenomenal. And when she lost back in and she shares that story, you'll definitely be truly, truly inspired by the things that she has overcome.
Sorry,
Okay?
I
No
went
problem.
out.
It's okay.
Happened. You had a question for me.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, for starters, like, where do you pull that strength from? Because I feel like if I could bottle your strength up and sell it, I would my greatest grandkids would be well off.
And sell
It's
it.
like
I like that.
like
I'm
where
gonna
does that
sell it too.
right? Where do you pull
um,
that from?
literally, I've been the smart kid for a long
Mhm,
time. Like out of my siblings, I mean, they're smart.
mhm.
They're smart, but I've always been the mature kid, and
Mhm,
so like I was way well advanced, and I kind of had like the most common sense, like, okay, look,
Okay.
this is how we have to do this. And we have to, even though we're children, but look, this, we need to do this so we won't get in trouble. So
Yeah.
I was always the voice. They call me bossy, which
Okay.
is fine. And so literally watching all the domestic violence, as
Mhm.
we were growing up, I was the one to call the cops. I was the one to break
Okay.
the fight up, like I was the one to put my younger siblings in the room, like close the door. Like
Mhm.
it's always been me having that strength to be like, no, this is not right. And so
Right, right.
I never knew what it was doing to me, but
Mhm.
as I got older, I see that it was preparing me for this situation because
Right.
my siblings, they became my children.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was like, I don't know how to cook. I don't homework. I only do my homework.
Right.
So I had to like really just become an adult
Hmm.
at 18 years old.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow,
So
wow.
really my siblings, I could say they made me strong.
Okay. So you felt like you feel like you had to, like, push through some of those things for their sake?
Yes,
So
definitely did. I definitely
mhm,
did. Like I was their protection through
mhm,
everything. Even though my sister, she didn't live with me, but still,
mhm,
I'm in New York, she's in Georgia,
mhm.
and literally I still was, hey, are you okay?
Right, right.
Making sure, things are going okay for you. So yeah, they literally helped me adult.
Mhm. It's funny how that works out because in a way you have this, these traumatic experiences that you're going through and you're trying to process it yourself, but then at the same time you have these younger siblings that you're trying to nurture and make sure they're okay,
Yeah.
and it kind of is like pushing you to be okay, to
Yes.
make sure that you continue to push through because I feel like with childhood trauma, people can oftentimes, and I see it with my students. I'm a school counselor in a middle school,
Hmm.
and I see it with my students where they have these traumatic experiences and it just can completely break them down to the
Yeah.
point where they lose hope, but I often tell my students to have something to put, some of that energy into,
Yeah.
have some positive outlets. It sounds like, your younger siblings, although you were kind of caring for them, they were kind of like the outlet that you needed to make sure that you continue to push through.
Right. That is
Mhm.
absolutely true. Um, and that wasn't easy either,
Mhm.
like they were actually preparing me to become a mom,
Mhm.
So by the time I did have my first child, I was like, I got this. I know what
Right.
to do.
Already know what to do.
I don't need the handbook. So yeah, like
Yeah.
it worked out for the better. But the only
Mhm.
thing I can say, the downside is I never got a chance to sit with what happened
Yeah.
because I was so busy dealing with everything else and everyone else. And I think that's what affected me as I got older
Mhm.
because now it's all coming out, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to even realize what was happening.
Mhm.
So that's the
And I
thing.
can understand that too, because a lot of the things that when I wrote my first book, Conquering Mountains, and I talked about a lot of the childhood traumatic experiences that I had, I didn't realize that I was going through those things or that it was as bad as I thought. I just wrote it off as, well, this is just life, but it wasn't until I moved out of my parents' home, even moving up to Maryland with my wife, where she's from, that I actually got to see like, oh, so you're not supposed to be
Yes.
moving from place to place and people
Yes.
fighting and doing all this stuff.
Yes.
It
Yes.
felt like weird, and if like I was homesick. I was glad to not be in that environment, but at the same time, I was like, I'm not used to this normalcy, you know?
Yes. Yes. You be like, this is what normal looks like.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought,
Yeah. So
yeah.
you write your book, The Fairy Tale Ends,
Hmm.
which is available on Amazon as well. Um, were you worried about anyone reading it, from like your family or anything as you were writing it?
Yes, of
Mhm.
course, of
Yeah.
course.
Same here.
I like I think I can get away with things a little bit of what I'm saying because I didn't put your name. So
Yeah.
but
Mm,
I touch some people, you know,
mhm.
but at the end of the day, it's my story to
Right.
tell. It's what
Right.
I've experienced. You have your own story to tell of what
Mhm.
happened towards that situation.
Yeah.
So, um usually I would be all in my head, just overthinking again, like, oh
Mhm.
my God, they're going to be so mad at me. I don't want, I'm a Cancer, so my emotions is
Mhm.
out there. And I'm just like, I'm a cool person. Why are you mad at me?
Right.
But so I would usually be worried about my
Mhm.
dad's family and how they were going to respond or how
Yeah.
friends were going to view me. But I wrote that book and I was like, I don't care.
Mhm.
I don't. Um, I did have family members feel away, in which I get it. Maybe you
Right.
guys didn't want to relive it again and
Mhm.
talk about it again. Or maybe you guys think I shouldn't share as much as I did. But
Mhm.
it's not about me portraying a certain image for someone. It's
Right.
literally just me sharing my story.
Right. And they say like writing is one of the greatest forms of self-therapy anyway, So I remember having a similar experience as you just mentioned where it took me 5 years to write the book, to finish
Mhm.
it. Because I had stopped writing it so much. Because I'm like, oh man, if I put this out there, this person's gonna be mad at me. This person's gonna stop talking to me. This is gonna hurt this person's feelings. And then I was like, forget it. This is my story, and this
Yeah,
is therapeutic for me, and I need this release.
yeah.
So I definitely can understand where you're coming from with that as well too.
And honestly, I'm not losing any sleep. So
Right.
I,
Right.
I'm fine with whoever don't want to talk to me because of the book. You know,
Yeah.
I've inspired so many people with this
Hmm.
book that the small amount that's upset, it's like you can't even speak to this support system
Right.
about my book because
Right.
they're gonna be like,
Right.
uh-uh.
The support that you're given with this book it
Yeah,
outweighs all of that.
exactly.
So yeah. So
Exactly.
in your book, I mean, you mentioned that like we talked about like childhood trauma, right? In your own words, what is your definition of childhood trauma, and what does that look like?
For me, it's experiences that you can't erase.
Hmm.
It's um it's damage marks that you can't unsee, you know.
Hmm.
Like you literally, even when you're moving forward and you think things are going well for you in
Hmm.
life, it's always going to be that time where something triggers you from that past,
Hmm.
when you were a child. So for me, I see childhood trauma as something that is very effective to
Hmm.
society, to humans,
Hmm.
like as a whole, not just a certain race or a
Hmm.
certain age. I mean, there's people that's affected by childhood trauma and they're 70, 80 years old.
Right. Right.
So, and a lot of it is generational and it gets passed down.
Hmm.
And so when I hear the word childhood trauma, I look at the person as, who are you now?
Hmm.
You know, what did you do to move past all those damaged things that happened to you when you were a child?
Hmm.
Because we just continue to grow up, right?
Right. Right.
We don't take the time to get the help that we need to correct those thoughts that we have,
Hmm.
So like I'm going to use an example. If a child was touched at a young age, right? When
Hmm.
they have their children, when they become adults, they're not going to want anyone around their child,
Right.
and that
Hmm.
continues to go on and go on. And then they're going to teach their children that and their
Hmm.
children that. So it's a cycle.
Right.
Childhood trauma is also a cycle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I mean, and it's crazy that a lot of people have these childhood traumatic experiences and never fully process it, or never fully even may even acknowledge that these things happen. Like they know that they happen, but they don't acknowledge it in a way where it's therapeutic, it's healing, and they
Hmm.
grow from it. They're
Hmm.
able to kind of move forward. I don't think you ever forget those experiences, but you can kind of push through. But a lot of times, a lot of people don't seek that help that they need, in dealing
Yeah.
with those issues.
And I think they blocked the idea of help out because it's something that's taught in the home. Oh,
Mhm.
don't tell what's happening in the home. What
Correct.
happens in
Right.
the home,
Right.
stay in the home. I completely disagree.
Hmm.
And I think I had put a post on Facebook. Stop teaching these kids what happens in
Right.
the home stays in the home, because your kid is getting touched and you have no idea because you told them to be quiet. What happens
Hmm.
with the family stays in the family. Right.
Right.
So I don't teach that. I don't teach that to my children. I want
Hmm.
to know what goes on between the siblings, my son, my daughter. He's older, she's younger. Like
Right. Right.
you gotta be in tune to these things, and you can't suppress your kids into thinking that you should not be able to express what has happened to you.
Hmm.
And that's why nobody wants to get help.
Right. And I'll say one of the things that encouraged me to write the book was, when I was thinking about um, this one being mad and that one being mad, I was like, well, then if you were worried about someone and out about it, you shouldn't have done it. And that's something that I think will always stick with me. I think my wife told me that. If you're worried about someone telling their story about what you did to them, then you
Mhm.
should not have ever done it.
I
You
like that.
know, and I
Hmm.
hope that people who are the abusers understand that. Like one day this child is gonna grow up,
Right.
and one day they may even just go to school one day and say this happened.
Right.
Whatever happens after that is not that child's fault. And that's something that I always tell my students as well too. It's not your fault that these things happen to you or are
Right.
happening to you. But I definitely want to make sure that everyone is encouraged to support our young people, because they do go through a lot. We learned
Yes.
that a lot during this pandemic, a lot of kids were at home with their abusers, for 24 hours a day for two
Yeah.
years straight, and then having to come back into the school setting
Right.
was a bit traumatic for them. Yeah.
I agree.
So I wanted to touch on a piece of your book. There's an excerpt in your book that I wanted to read and get your input on it. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So in your book, you talked about, and I'll read the section of it. Because I feel like this is something that a lot of our kids or a lot of individuals have gone through, and a lot of things that a lot of what you talk about in this section, a lot of our kids go through today. And in your
Mhm.
book, you said, my siblings and I were joking around at the table and laughing, but once my dad walked in, everyone had gone quiet. He assumed that we were talking about him, and he said, if y'all MFers have something to say it to my face. I responded back by saying, we didn't say anything. And then you mentioned he walked up to me and slammed my face onto the table, and everyone stood in silence as he walked away. And then you went on to say that the next day after what had transpired, I remember my dad talking and joking with me as if nothing had happened. And when you wrote that, it took me back to a past experience I had with my father. I shared in my book as well too,
Mhm.
where my father had hit me after a little league baseball game because I didn't get a hit,
Mhm.
and I remember having to go to school the next day and still having to function. And then, just remembering him joking and laughing as if like yesterday just never
Right.
happened. In that moment, if you can think back to that moment, like what was going through your mind then
Um.
as a young child?
So when you say that, in which moment, in the part that
Oh,
he
had,
joked the next day, or that he slammed my face on the table? Because
so,
both
so I guess
moments
like,
were different.
yeah. So the moment where he slammed your face on the table and you looked up and you saw your family looking, um, from there and then transitioning into the next day when your dad was joking around and stuff?
Um, I can remember that day as clear as ever.
Mhm.
I think out of many of the domestic violence situations and the abuse, that is one that stands out because it was the look on my siblings' faces after,
Mm,
it was the look of like my sister is like 5 years old.
mm,
And then my brother, he's like 8 or 9 years old.
mhm.
And so they're looking like, did he just do that? And my sister's face just got sad.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, I felt pity for them because if it's happening to me, he can come around this table and do the same thing to you guys. And
Mhm,
you all are babies.
mhm.
So, and like I
And how
said,
old were you at the time? Sorry.
I think I probably was like 16,
Oh,
maybe.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, probably like 15, 16, somewhere around there.
Mm,
Um, and it just made me feel like I need to protect,
mhm.
and I don't want my siblings to go through what just happened to me.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was also a sense of embarrassment
Mhm.
because um I didn't it's like, what did I do to deserve that?
Right,
You know?
right.
And you're taking my voice away because I responded to what you said.
Mhm.
And there goes that thing of suppressing your child to making them feel like they don't have a voice and they shouldn't
Right.
speak about certain things. So I just like, but now the next day when he joked around with me, I didn't want to be bothered.
Mhm,
I turned on the switch of I'm gonna stay over here, but I'm gonna be respectful because you're my dad.
mhm.
I'm gonna stay as far away as I can because I don't want you to even feel a little bit that I am looking at you like you just did that and you're laughing.
Yeah.
Like I don't even want you to feel the attitude that I have
Right.
or the pain that I'm feeling because then you might get triggered again and hit me again.
Mhm,
So I kind of just stayed away. But at that point, I knew something was wrong,
mhm.
and it had nothing to do with me. I'm just a child.
Right.
And for you to hit someone and then turn around and think it's okay the next day because I'm your child.
Mhm, mhm.
No.
Yeah. I remember reading your book, and just feeling, and you did an awesome job, painting the picture, with
Yeah.
your words, because I felt like I was there and I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I gotta defend her, like I gotta stand in the way.
Yeah.
But it was
No,
so
that way he's
empowering.
coming.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, did you feel like you had to kind of tiptoe around your dad after that?
Um, no,
No.
nope, I didn't. Um, I think I was developing a lot of anger towards my dad.
Mm,
So at that point, as I was getting older, I was getting the feeling of hit me. Don't hit my mom, hit me.
mm.
Like I
Right,
wanted to
right.
jump in to save because it was just like pick on somebody your own size.
Mhm.
Even though I was
Yeah.
but to see my mom always just getting abused, it's just like,
Yeah.
just hit me then. So
Yeah.
um
Wow.
I literally just started to get tired and just wanted to just stand up for her.
Mhm.
So um I know there is a part in the book where I mentioned that he had myself and my mom standing next to each other, and he just called me so many
Mm,
foul names, like you hoe and slut, and that's you're gonna grow up to
mhm.
be this, and you're gonna grow up to be that, and just
Mm,
diminishing me. And this was the very first time I looked my dad in the eyes and didn't blink. Like
mm,
I was kind of like standing toe to toe with him at that point.
mhm.
Like I'm looking at you like you're someone in the street, and so am I. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I couldn't beat him, but I just wanted him to understand that I'm older now, and
Right.
now I'm gonna help. I'm going to defend.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the very first time where I started to look at my dad differently, when he was just like diminishing me. But then this when he pushed my head on the table that time around, that's when I was like, oh yeah, I think I was losing respect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I should say. I
Yeah.
was losing my respect for him
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't understand why it was happening.
Yeah. So how did you stay like as a teenager? How did you stay like sane? Because I feel like a lot of times, or not necessarily, I shouldn't say sane, but how did you not allow the things that he was saying to you and doing to you diminish your value?
Um, I started to rebel because he
Okay.
was doing that to me. And
Mhm.
when I, and it literally, it wasn't even the worst rebelling in the world. It
Yeah.
was just like, it was so many things I couldn't do. Like, I
Mhm.
can't spend the night at my family member's house, you know?
Mm.
So, or my friend's house. My friend have a sleepover. I can't go. It's all girls. Her mom is there. You met her mom, and it's still a no. And it's just
Mm.
like I had no life as a teenager.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna lie, and I'm going to say, "Oh, I'm going to stay at cousin so and so house, but I'm going to the girls' sleepover."
Ah,
But I'm
yeah.
okay. I'm safe.
Right. You're just trying to be a
um,
kid.
I just wanted to be a kid, and then
Yeah.
I literally would my cousins, they all were going to the movies, and he would not let me go. And that's
Mm.
another moment that I would never forget, because I was
Mm.
just like, these are my cousins. I
It's
can't go
family,
with
right?
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he made me just start to like say, forget it, I'm not asking anymore. I'm just
Mhm.
gonna go and sneak in and go to the
Right.
movies with my friends and come
Yeah.
back and hey, like it never happened. I wouldn't say like I wasn't, into alcohol, dating, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
No, I literally just wanted to be a kid. I couldn't
Yeah.
wear certain things because it was considered whore clothes. So
Mhm.
I couldn't be a kid. I
Yeah.
couldn't. So.
So then you moved from New York to Atlanta, right?
Uh-huh.
Is that after the incident where your dad hit you and hit your face on the table?
Yes, that was after.
Okay. So what was life like then when you moved to Atlanta?
Um, so it was something to get used to because
Mhm.
New York is a fast life, and everything fast paced. And I came here and everyone was so nice, and you drive through the neighborhood and they're waving at you.
Yeah.
Like, why are you waving at me?
I don't
I
know
don't
you.
know you. But it was super pleasant, super nice people. As far as me going to high school here, um, I didn't have a good high school year, and I only had a year
Mhm.
because I did, all of my schooling in New York. But
Yeah.
then I didn't have a good high school year. And I say that because of everything that transpired. And then
Mhm.
I have to get to know new people and have to
Mhm.
have them get to know me. And then I'm the new girl in the school. And then the new girl has a whole tragedy that comes into the school,
Right.
maybe 3 months of her just being there.
Mhm.
So my whole life transition into high school, where I'm a new student, and on
Mhm.
top of that, now there's a whole. These kids had the article of my mom and dad on the
Mm.
front page at their doorsteps.
Wow.
So when I came to
Wow.
school, I had no idea there was even a newspaper. I came to school and they were like,
Mm.
"Are you okay?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"What are y'all
mercy.
talking about?" But
Yeah.
everyone just kept, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know what. Yeah, I am. What?" And they told me, and I was like, "Oh my God."
Oh, man.
super embarrassing, you know,
Yeah.
like super embarrassing. And then I'm from New York, so I'm not like Georgians, you know.
Hmm.
I'm like private, and we
Hmm.
kind of feel ourselves, and we just think we're,
Right. Right.
don't want everybody in our business. So for me, that was like, whoa, what do I even do with this? How do I even move forward?
So how
So
did you? Well, before I ask you that question, do you mind sharing? And you don't have to if you don't want to, but do you
mhm,
mind sharing what took place with your mom and your dad?
I don't mind.
Okay.
So we did move to Atlanta from New York.
Mhm.
Um, and the whole plan was for my dad to establish his own business, which was going to be a boxing company. He was going to open a
Mhm.
boxing gym. So when we got here, we were exposed to a brand new home, and it was a mansion, and we
Mhm.
all had our own room, something we never experienced in New York. Everything was going pretty well. He built the gym in the basement of the home.
Mhm. Okay.
My little brother was ranked number one in the country
Oh
in
wow.
boxing. So that was his training. My dad put that
Mm.
together so he can continue to train.
Mhm.
Everything was going fine. And my dad started to go back to his past ways that he had
Mm.
in New York. And I didn't know why, but my mom said that she had I don't know if it was accusing or it did happen, but something happened with a woman, and she
Mhm.
addressed him. And when you're in a domestic violence relationship, you can't address your abuser, because then your
Right. Right.
abuser is going to attack you, because
Correct.
you don't
Correct.
have the right to call me out or anything. So
Yeah.
she felt like she should have said something that day, and he beat her bad.
Mm.
And I'm not going to say abuse. He beat her bad.
Yeah.
Um, and so after that, after that fight, literally maybe 2 weeks after, um, we all went to a boxing show, and we came home, and then my siblings and I went to the movies, and then my mom and dad said they were going out, and my dad never came back home.
Mm.
And we tried searching for him, and try to see where he was, but we didn't get no answer until my mom confessed to murdering him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and so that's how I end up becoming the parent or the
Mm.
guardian of my siblings, because my mom had to go to jail.
Right.
And so I don't want to give too much of the juice, because you guys got to
Right.
put
Right.
the
Oh yeah,
book
they definitely got about a book.
to get all the juice as to
Yeah.
what happened and how it happened. It's very
Hmm.
detailed, very
Yeah.
detailed. So
So did that put a strain on you and your mother's relationship?
absolutely.
Yeah.
My mother drove me crazy.
Mm.
She drove me crazy. I
Mm.
was like, I never experienced someone that's in jail or prison.
Mhm.
I would always hear stories how people need money on their books, and I'm like, what is
Yeah.
that? Oh, I know exactly what it is now.
Right.
But how do you block this call? Because
Yeah.
she keep calling. Oh man. And I was a teenager.
Mm.
So that was so much weight on me. I was in
Mm. Yeah.
college, and she calling me, and I need money on my books, and I need this and I
Mm.
need that. My mom, I'm a broke college student. How to help you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you wrote the book, did your mom read it?
My mom has not touched that book. I don't even think she
Uh,
purchased one,
Yeah. Yeah.
because my mom is still going through her own, situation
Mhm.
with trying to reconnect with the world.
Mhm.
Um, Serving all that time she did, she's trying to rebuild and trying to find herself. It when she first came home, it put a lot of strain on me. Like, it was
Mm.
just like, you're a mother. Why
Mhm.
aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Like,
Right.
my expectations were way too high.
Mm.
And I had so many people just talk to me and tell me, listen, she doesn't know, this is a new world for her.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
doesn't know what, and she's looking at her children like, you guys are older. Y'all got to figure it out now.
yeah.
So, but little does she know, it's like, I'm still a child in my head. I'm still
Right,
waiting
right.
for my mom because I had that whole absence of
Hmm.
her. So
And you're so young when she went
that's
in
what I'm
too.
saying. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was so
yeah.
young. So it's just like all the things that I've learned now is because I had to survive.
Mm,
Yeah.
man, that's powerful. Where's my tissue? But
Yes.
yeah. So do you feel like a lot of those things that you went through has kind of shaped you and molded you into the person that you are today?
Absolutely. I
Mm,
am not perfect by far, but I've came a long way from where I used to be. I think this situation was destined to happen. Like it was meant for me so
mhm.
that I can be the voice for others. Um, my mom, it would be hard to get her on the show because she's super shy. If you see her, you'd be like, you did not do that. But yeah.
Right.
So it's just like I couldn't get her on a show or anything.
Mm,
My brothers, they're the same way. My
mhm,
sister, she may get on a show or something, and we talk about it, but they are not the voice. They would
mhm.
never do what I'm doing. They would like,
Right, right.
they're very to themselves, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't go to that extent. So I'm gonna take everything for them.
Mm.
I'm
I
gonna do
chose you for a reason.
Yes, I'm gonna do everything so that they can be okay in the
Mm.
end because we went through a lot. As
Yeah,
a
definitely.
family, we went through a lot.
That's a lot to go through
So
in, yeah,
yeah,
in a whole lifetime.
yes,
Let alone you were what, 18 years old when a
yeah,
lot of, or up to 18 years old when all those things were taking place. So for somebody, and I'll ask you a few more questions as well too. For adults working with kids,
mhm,
what kind of things do we need to look out for when kids are experiencing, or do you have any idea of what things to look out for when kids are experiencing like some of the things that you experience with abuse and domestic violence?
absolutely. I definitely can give you some tips on that. Um, and I'll give an example. So my dad had beat my little brother with an
Mhm,
extension cord.
mhm,
And he told the teacher seen the webs on his legs, and he told the teacher that the cat was scratching him.
mm,
But I feel like you can know the difference between a cat scratch and whelps from someone abusing you.
right.
Look out for signs of timidness. Like children are very timid. Um, like if you yell and they're jumping, or if they
Mhm,
hear someone else yelling and they jump, or um, if you show any sign of anger and they become fear of you instantly,
mm,
that's another sign. Also, children that are misbehaving. Now that's a big one because a
mhm,
lot of times the children are rebelling. They are literally living whatever trauma they're going through.
mhm,
They're putting it out in the outside world. They putting it out there to other children. They're taking that anger that came from home and bringing it to other children.
mhm,
Sometimes they even think that it's the norm.
right.
They don't even think that. You just gave an example of your story and how you was like,
Mhm.
hey, I thought this how life was supposed to be. Oh,
Yeah.
so the kids are coming from home and they're doing the same thing. They're
Mhm,
going to their classmates and they're bullying and they're, hitting and fighting and doing really mean things.
right,
But some of them think that's the norm because it's happening at home and
right.
that's all they know. Other signs, let's see. I know a very quiet kid,
Mm,
a very quiet kid. could be going through some sort of depression,
Mm-hmm.
some sort of insecurity, or maybe even loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another sign.
Yeah, you just described me when I was in high school. Definitely was the quiet one, well mannered. Everybody thought my life was great, but then it was like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, definitely understand that.
And sometimes even the perfect kid, the kid
Mm-hmm.
that you think is the perfect kid is not the perfect kid.
Right.
The kid that walks around and think they're the perfect kid is the kid that has a lot of secrets at home,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Yeah.
have to portray this image to keep your friends liking you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another one too.
Yeah. I put it on Facebook a while back. That kid that's in your classroom that might be getting straight A's, and it's the perfect, well-mannered kid, might be the kid that's getting abused at home.
Yes.
And that is just so true. So many, and a lot of those kids get, they get swept under the rug, or they fly under the radar because they're
Mm-hmm.
not causing the disturbance in the classroom. And they kind of
Mm-hmm.
get overshadowed by the ones that are misbehaving. And a lot of those kids are going through a great deal of things at home, like you mentioned. And just trying to look out for those warning signs that you mentioned is something that we teach our teachers, because they're on the front lines in the classroom. They have the most experience with the kids, or being present with the kids, having them in front of them, and notice things that are different with other kids and their behaviors and mannerisms and stuff. So I'm glad that you brought that up too, especially the lonely kid and the kid that makes it seem like everything's perfect, because they have to put on that front to make it, to hide all of the trauma
Yeah,
that they're experiencing at home. So I definitely appreciate you bringing that up as well too.
no problem.
Yeah. So one last question. What advice would you give someone who is starting their journey of dealing with, past traumas that they experienced in their childhood? What kind of advice would you give them?
um, do not date.
Mm. That's a big one.
Do not date.
Mm,
Do not marry. Do
mm,
not have children. Do not make any major moves in your life until, don't even accept that top paying dollar job,
mm. Wow.
because you literally have to learn to deal with yourself before you
Mhm,
can deal with everything else that comes in life. And if you are not well within yourself, then you can't ever handle a relationship. You
mm,
can't ever handle having children with someone, and you guys can't come together as one.
mhm,
You can't accept that top paying job just because it's bringing more money. You have to
mhm.
understand that there's going to be more problems. And can you
Right.
handle it? If you are
Mhm,
not mentally prepared for that, then how are you going to? You can't just take the money. They want
right,
to see you work for it.
right.
But
To
then
perform.
you'll end up having a mental breakdown, because now you making more money, but you can't handle what's happening behind the scenes of the money.
Mhm. Yeah.
So um focus on you, focus on yourself. Self-healing is everything. I mean, get your chakras in line, like do prayer,
Mhm,
just have days where it's just you and no one else. There's no noise, there's nothing. It's literally you and God
mhm.
in peace, because the when you master your peace, you're a whole different beast. Like,
I gotta use
and that
that
ain't
one.
even a rhyme, but I'm telling you, no one can come for you when you master that peace. And
Mm,
like I said, I'm not perfect, but I strive to master my peace. And by the time you have reached that point when you've mastered, you become ahead of so many people. You become that top dog, because
mhm.
it's nothing they can do to bring you down.
Right.
Nothing they can say to bring you down. You're going to start looking at people like, hmm, I think I need to pray for you. You know, you're not even going to want to talk bad about them. You're
Mhm.
not going to want to say, you crazy. You're going to want to say, I'm going to pray for you.
Mhm.
Something's not right. And I feel like I need to pray for you.
Yeah.
So focus on you. That's the biggest thing. That's find your
Yeah.
peace and you'll be untouchable. And
Yeah.
then you can move on to other things in life.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Finding your
Yeah.
peace. That's good.
I
Yeah.
made the mistake of, and I can't even say a mistake because I had no structure. I had no
Mm.
guidance. I'm a teenager running around, like
Right.
who's gonna tell me what to do? There's no one here, So
Yeah.
I dated my son's father for 10 years.
Mm.
And I was just like, now that when I look back, I'm like, why didn't anyone help me? Why didn't anyone tell me
Yeah.
don't have no children yet? This yet. I'm just like, I done moved in with a man and I'm 22 years old. What? If my dad was here,
Mm.
mm, that would never happen. So,
Yeah.
like, I never got the chance to take the time for me because it was always me having someone in place to fulfill the void. Like,
Mm.
I need some love because
Right.
I don't have the love. It's just me.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that insight. That is big. You need to put that on a t-shirt. When you find your peace, you become what you say, become the beast.
You become the beast.
Yeah, that's I need to go on a t-shirt.
Like that.
Need
I
to
know,
coin
right?
that one.
Right.
But thank you so much for joining the I Am Conquering Mountains podcast. I know your insight and your story has already and will continue to inspire many. I'm thankful that, God has blessed you with a lot of the things that you're doing, and also blessed you to overcome those situations that you overcame. And you're being a trailblazer for a lot of people who are about to go through those things or are going through those things. And even those who have gone through it, come out of it, but haven't quite healed from it yet. You are a living testimony that, God will bless you to conquer the mountains that you face. So definitely
Thank
appreciate
you.
you and all the things you do.
This was probably the best interview I've had
Oh, thank you.
in a long
I hope I was a great
time.
host.
I am so happy that I've actually had a chance to experience this with you. Like, your questions were amazing. You gave me the chance to actually express and be detailed, with my
Mhm.
answers. And thank you so much. I send this to people. Tell me how to do it.
Definitely will let you know. Especially I'll let you know when the episode airs as well, so you can share it.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. I got one more sign though.
Okay.
I am super jokey, as you can see,
Yeah, yeah.
but that is another sign of a child that's
Mm-hmm.
going through a lot. Like, you're the jokester because you're hiding your pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so look out for that. You
Yeah.
definitely have there's a lot of signs. I'm gonna make a list for you so you can take it to your school.
Absolutely. Definitely will appreciate it. Because
I
that's a good point though,
right
because
now, but
yeah,
I've I laugh I laugh things off,
yeah, yeah.
and I went through so much. What? I don't want to be mad,
Right.
but I'm saying there's also the child that is laughing because they're in pain.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
jokester, the clown of the class, all that. That
Mm-hmm.
was me and his brother, and that's why that clicked in my head.
Mm.
He was the class clown in school.
Yeah.
So look out for yep.
Definitely, definitely. That makes a lot of sense because that the class clown is probably trying to feel better about themselves,
Yep.
and feel some type of joy, and
Yep.
that
Laugh
laughter
with
gives
me.
them that.
Laugh
Yeah,
with me. Yeah.
definitely. Nice, nice. That's powerful, Tammy. That is powerful. So you have a lot of insight to share, and are you working on another book or
Yeah,
okay,
I am.
okay,
I'm actually working on two. I
okay.
didn't tell Miss Janine yet. It's one.
Yeah.
but I'm also doing a children's book, and I'm gonna
Nice.
let my kids write that book
Mm,
because my son live in New York right now, and my
okay.
daughter is here with me, and
Hmm.
so I want them to talk about the separation of
Oh,
living in a different state.
yeah.
Um, and I think it's going to be another very touchy but like friendly
Yeah.
book because there's a lot of kids that are separated from their sibling,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's not always negative. It's not always a
Hmm.
negative reason, but as parents, for other parents to know, hear from two children how it makes them feel when they
Hmm.
are separated.
That is going to be powerful. That's
Yes,
going to be.
yes,
I'm gonna see
yes.
you on TED Talk. I'm
Look,
like,
I'm
I
trying to
interviewed
get
her.
there. I'm trying to get there.
Yeah. That,
Definitely.
I can't wait for that to come out. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be one of the purchasers of that one, especially working with kids who actually go through that,
Yes.
living separate. I've had kids who, with divorce and they separate, and then I've had kids who have to have like blended families and stuff like that. So I think that book is definitely going to be a game changer right there. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to be excited about that.
The second book is going to be called Chasing Fame.
Mm. Uh-oh.
So, um, dating a football player.
Okay.
Beyonce is a football player or ex-football player, and
Mm.
how my life went with that.
Mm. Okay.
Mm,
That should be
ho-
interesting.
hopefully, he won't be mad. Now, that's the person that might be like, "Oh, girl, I'm suing you."
Yeah, change his name.
Right.
Well, thank you, Tammy, again for joining the I Am Conquering Mountains podcast. Your insight is definitely a blessing, not only to myself, but to many people worldwide. And I know it's going to be definitely beneficial to a lot of people who tune in to the podcast. So I definitely appreciate all that you're doing and will do as well. And, God bless you with the 2 books that you're writing as well, too.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
Hang tight while I stop the recording.